My name is Gerald Rutgers, and I worked with Whatcom County Library, specifically in the jail. That was part of the outreach program. And that was what I was originally hired on to do. Simply work at the jail and do some other work with the bookmobile, from time to time, go out on routes and things like that. But 20 years of work at the jail gives you a really interesting idea of who in our community is finding themselves on the fringe. Because we dealt a lot with people that would find their life on the street and they didn't know what else to do with themselves, and they'd come back, and then we'd see them again and we'd try to help them out. And every once in a while you'd get somebody that would just absolutely make your day. You'd find somebody that wanted to have a book, wanted to have material on something specific that they wanted to do to get themselves out of coming back again. They wanted to try and break away from the life that they had been living and the people that they were surrounding themselves with, and do something to get out of this circle, this cycle. And that to me was so rewarding. I would do whatever I could. I would find the material for them. I'd photocopy it. I'd get hold of some books somewhere that would give them a better idea of life beyond jail. And that to me made so much more sense in trying to help people, because then I felt I was actually doing something. A lot of times at the jail we'd simply hand out books. It would be more for their entertainment. They would only be there for a short time, and they just wanted something to do, because when I first started they had television, and about a year after I started they got rid of all the televisions because it caused so many fights, and people would take apart the television and use components to do other things, and I don't know what, probably do tattoos because they wanted something sharp and they could, anyway. So there were fights and problems with who does what channel, and why do we want that? No, I don't want that channel. Okay, so they got rid of all the televisions. When that happened, my circulation went way up. People weren't looking for entertainment, as Alan Funt said, TV is nothing but chewing gum for the eyes. And they finally got rid of them, and then suddenly, books. Wow, we can get as many as we want. Yep. Oh, and it was just wonderful. And I thought, now is that a lesson for our kids or what? I mean, if you put them in front of a TV, it's babysitting, I understand. And there's a little that's all right. But if you get them away from that, you're going to have people that want to read. They want to do something with their mind, and I'm all for it. I'm just happy that I could be used with the library system to bring some entertainment, but also some solid finding out more in life through the media of books and what we could pass on to them.
So what year was that when they got rid of the...
Let's see, I started in 86, no, 96, sorry, and I think it was about 98. I believe it was around 98. Jim Melhorn was the librarian at the jail immediately before I got there. And he kind of showed me the ropes and what he did and all that. And he complained too that, they used to have coffee makers in the cells or in the common area, but people would vandalize them and take them apart, and that, okay, fine. So they had to get rid of those too. But it was just shortly after he left and I started that we went television-less, and it was just great. We actually got 600 or 700 books and magazines out to people each week, and I was happy to do it. It was a joy for me to be part of that work, more so than just working with the general populace, although that was fun too. But it's interesting to see the kind of people you get in the jail and what their needs are. When you talk to them, some of them are just happy to have 3 meals and a place to sleep. It's a step up from what they were doing on the street. But others find it just a terrible waste of time, and they don't want to do this again. And can you find me something that can help me learn? And you said the right word. So that to me, I mean, we do it in the library system elsewhere, and you talk to people, and they want to have some material from someplace else. We're happy to get it for them. And now that I'm retired and out and not here every day, but talking to some of those people that use the library, they are absolutely happy and joyful that they know there's a place they can go where people will help you find the information and find the connections. It's beautiful, and I really enjoyed that.
So you said you'd bring 600 or 700 books and magazines a week?
Yep.
Do you have an idea like what the population of the jail was?
I think it was around 200 something. It fluctuates a lot. They have 180 to 220 and so on. They kind of get maxed out at a point, and there were times when they were triple bunking. They had, usually the rooms had 2 concrete bunks, and they'd put a mattress on top of the concrete, which was about that thick. And it was a hard place to sleep. And then if they had more than they could hold, then they would put what was called a boat. It was basically a long plastic bed that was usually about 7 feet long, and you'd put a mattress in it. It was very thick and very heavy, but they'd slide one of those in there, so there'd be the 2 bunks and this other room. Led to a lot of problems because you're walking over somebody at night, and et cetera, et cetera. And the room was not designed for 3 people.
Yeah.
So.
I was just I want to get back to this though, because this is so you're saying 200 prisoners or so.
Yeah.
600 books.
Yep.
Or magazines.
They were allowed to have, we put a limit on it. They could have 5 books and 1 magazine each. We did a lot to make sure that they had some magazines on the cart every time. As the day got along, we would run out, and so we'd say, well, next time you guys will be first to get them, and so on. Because magazines were very popular, especially People magazines. Not so much sports. I was surprised by that, but they would go and gravitate toward National Geographic. We had other magazines that talk about photography and things. Of course, we once got hold of some magazines from somebody called Ink, and it was all about tattoos. Oh, they couldn't keep those on the cart for a minute. They're gone. Okay. But everybody at least had the opportunity to have at least 5 books. Now, sometimes they would only return a couple because those are the only ones they were done with. We would let them have 5 more. So after a while, the books were passed around inside the jail. We usually figured 1 copy in a tank where there's like 30 guys. That book, if it was good, would be passed around. And so we got to the point where we would say, well, okay, we distributed 500 articles, but I'm sure that the circulation would be at least 6 because that book was used a lot, and they were hungry for books. There was a real joy to see me come. One of the things that hurt, and they realized it, was if they were not behaving well, not, as one of the sergeants said, doesn't play well with others. If that was going on in a particular tank, their library service was cut off for a week. They shaped up. They said, "Oh no, that was a stupid thing to do. We don't want to do that." So it was used as all right. Not only do you not get commissary, you also don't get library this week. it had its effect, and a correct effect that, hey, look, outside in civilization, you got to do the same thing, so why not here? It was good. I pick up a car from CS, load all the materials in, the new magazines and any new books we got and things like that. Head off to the jail. Used to be they would allow us to park in what was called the sally ports. It's a naval term. It's a place where the police car pulls in, and then the big steel door closes behind them, and then the next door opens and they pull in there, and that's where they unload prisoners, so that inmates, I should say. And then, the door would close behind them there too, and then they would have this secure little room in which they could unload their police car and bring them right into booking. Well, they'd allow me to park in that general area outside, and it was always secure parking. It was great. But then they switched that later on to being in the parking lot right next to, right south of the jail. And then I, take my materials in with a cart, go upstairs to the second floor. That's where the library was. Set up what books we're going to distribute that day from wherever, and requests that were filled and things like that. Got my carts ready, refreshed them with new books and other things, put magazines on top, and went out to the tanks. And you'd serve second floor that had 6 tanks, they called them, where they'd hold somewhere between 20 and 30 guys in each one of them. That's on the second floor. And then third floor would be women in one section, and we'd serve them. There's usually about 30 women maybe at the most. And then the other side of the second floor, third floor was where they had those that were injured, if they had a broken arm or wheelchair accessible, things like that. And also isolation, where they are in very confined cells, and they're in there 24/7. They get out an hour a day, and that's when they can take their shower or whatever they want to do. And they were really starving for books, because there's nothing to do in there. There's nobody to talk to, and it's a pretty dismal place. They have a little window they can see out to the bay, but other than that, there's no great joy in there, and that's isolation, and it's a sorrowful place, really is. I understand why they need to put them in there, but if you have any compassion at all, you're going to look at that and say, this is bad. I don't know what else they do. I mean, some of these people were really in need of being there and locked away, and there's strange things going on with them. But that was tough. In fact, there were times when the officer had to come with me to be in there, because I was in close proximity. I wasn't, there were still doors and bars and things between, but these people had a reputation, and they were not to be trifled with. So, and then, you'd get out of there and you'd breathe air again. Oh, good. And then you could also go down to the first floor, and there they have individual cells where they just got there from booking. And they were just put in there for a time being to see where they're going to be located throughout the jail. And there's also some in the booking area that were juveniles they didn't want to put them into general population, but they were not going to put them in the juvenile section that's across the aisle too. They, like one young man was charged with murder, and they kept him isolated in that downstairs. And then around the corner there's a kitchen, and then around the corner from that there's the men's general population, where they're just all out in one big room, and usually about 25 guys in there. So, and we get there, each one of these places they have a chow hatch, which is about this wide by that high, just enough room for them to put their chow tray in, And that's what they would use to get books also. And other visitors who would come if their attorney was there or the chaplain or things like that. And that's how they would communicate, just simply through that. And we learned not to get too close to that because they could always reach around and grab you and pull you in. Hey, that, nope, not gonna happen. So we would use that as the way in which we could service them with the various books we had.